still says,
there it goes.
Here we go.
I was waiting for you to say it.
As soon as I say it. So, good evening and welcome to Suffering in Silence with Pastor Tia here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay, as usual, we are continuing to rise out of the ashes together. Our topic on this night is actually how to argue the right way. We have with us our co-host Mark Daria, and our guest for this evening is a friend of mine, Officer Kenrick Bourne. So, listeners, if you have any questions or comments for myself or for our guest or our co-host, you can email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com, or you can text us at 437-778-3299. And also, if you have any resources at all that you would like to share with us on a national or local level from your country, your community, any local organizations or your faith community, you can also email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. And with that, Mark, if you would greet our listeners and viewers on tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Looking forward to a great conversation this evening, or a great argumentation this evening. So looking forward to learning a lot from our guest.
Thank you. So, Officer Bourne, you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenrick Bourne, Officer Bourne. I'm on the show with TMA. So she asked me to have a conversation about arguing would be the title. So I want to see what's the argument's about, the question she wanted to ask. So I'm entitled and ready for everything.
Oh my good, thank you so much. So I gotta tell you, Love Bay, I threw Kenrick on the spot last minute. As usual, this is a live program and we do what we need to do. We just roll with the punches. So I pulled him in last minute for this, and he graciously accepted to help us on tonight. So before we do move into our topic, I want to start with sharing some resources. We have in Dallas, Texas, the Genesis Women's Shelter and Support Program. Their website is genesisshelter.org. Their 24-hour helpline is 214-946-4357. We have the National Domestic Violence Hotline in the United States. Their website is thehotline.org. Their number is 1-800-799-7233. And in Canada, we have the Canadian Women's Foundation. Their website is canadianwomen.org. Their number is 1-866-293-4483. So again, on tonight, our topic is how to argue. And the idea behind this is a conversation that I've had with Officer Bourne for some time. Actually, over the past few weeks, we discussed it. This was supposed to be something in the future, but again, as I said, on tonight, we're bringing it to you for because we were just put in that position. But it's a conversation that we had, and the point is to be able to express to individuals that no relationship that you're in, if it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, if it's work, if it's business partners, if it's employees, employers, because we deal so heavily and so thoroughly with the issue of domestic violence, we never, I know I myself, and I think I can speak for Jen on this point, we never want to put in anybody's mind that there is just this unrealistic idea that you will have a beautiful, perfect relationship with no arguments, with no disagreements, that it won't happen. And so that's not it. But keeping that in mind, we wanted to really just lay out and just throw out there, arguments will happen. It's okay and it's normal, and arguments are healthy, but there is a way to argue. So arguments, do not mean, as we said before, that dishes are flying across the room, that you're being called out of your name, you're being degraded. That is not what a healthy argument looks like. And anytime you take two different people two healthy thinking individuals, at some point in time, you are going to have some disagreement about something because you think for yourself. Nobody always comes to the same conclusion and wants the same things, and it's okay to be different. And I've always said, if you never have any kind of disagreement, if you never feel, if you never feel like, well, no, I don't want to, or I want to do it that way, or I think this, or I think that, if you always go along, something somewhere in that relationship is not right, because that's not true. Two people never 100% agree on everything and get along and just as a bed of roses. That just does not happen. So with that in mind, that was a groundwork for this conversation. And so again, I am throwing Officer Bourne on the spot and also Mark. But with that, Mark, let me ask you first, in your mind and in your eyes, because you are married, what a healthy argument in a relationship looks like to you. And I would ask you not just from the standpoint of being married. I mean, you're also a professor and you work. What does a healthy argument look like to you?
No, it's great, and I love it. No, we're sitting here and I'm thinking, as you're speaking, if two people are always in agreement, one of them's lying.
Yes.
So or they just don't care enough about the relationship to bother to contest anything that's being said. So, I mean, the options are pretty small. The truth of the matter is that you have two individuals. You're going to have three different opinions, so that's kind of the way that works. And so the trick is, how do you manage disagreement and in a mature, comfortable way? And that is, in my opinion, that's the way that is obtained. It's through mutual respect. It's through trust. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, not entitled to their own set of facts, but there is certainly entitled to their own opinions. And from that basis is that it is a question of mutual respect. You can believe what you wish to believe. And I can, my job is to simply say, okay, this is why I don't see it that way. Or, you know what, sometimes, wow, I never thought of that before. And you may actually change your thoughts on it with some additional information or a new perspective.
Yes. So I agree with that. And I want to emphasize a point that you made. If one of you is not sharing what you truly feel, what you think, what you believe, if you are afraid to ask questions, if you are scared to speak your mind, then that is abuse. That is violence. Something is wrong with that. But I should be able to say, I don't like this right now. I don't like what's happening. I want this to happen. I want that to happen. I should be able to speak my mind freely and clearly. Now, having said that, the way that I express myself,
yes,
that means something too. I have a right to say what I want to say. I don't have a right to say it in a way that's degrading to you.
No,
I don't have a right to be at the top of my voice hollering at you or towering over you physically. I don't have a right to instill fear into you to try to make you hear what it is that I'm saying. With that, Kenrick, I would ask you the same question. What does a healthy argument look like to you?
A healthy argument is when two partners is basically what he said about the two partner is on one in the court. But sometimes one partner disagree and the next one agree. But sometimes we have to come together and agree on it, and then we figure it out and see what is the issue or the problem with she wanted and I wanted. Because if we don't come together and put it on the table and try to figure it out together, then we will never going to understand with each other.
Yeah.
So we have to come together, and if we have to have a mediator, somebody in front of us, go over go over each question and ask, about what the situation is and what's the problem is to get it right. Because no one are perfect, but sometimes her understanding, my understanding are not the same understanding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we really have to have a mediator sometimes, because we can keep go on and go on, and none of us never gonna be understand each other. So, and it can create more than what it can be. So
Mhm.
sometimes we have to ask ourselves, listen, let's stop right here, move on to something else, and let's get it together another time until we can solve this problem. But we're not going to just leave it there and let it stay there. We're going to come back to it, because sometimes we left certain things and then it came back again and it become a problem. So we have to fix that problem and then move on after.
So I agree with that and with everything that you said. Like I just heard several things. One is that whatever relationship that you are involved in, there needs to be a compromise. Compromise is not a bad word. Compromise is healthy. Compromise is good. And I think one of the things that we can draw on is something that Lundy Bancroft said in his book. Why does he do that? He answered the question of like, how do you know that I'm dealing with an abusive person? How do I know that I'm dealing with a controlling person? And it's how did they make you feel? If I'm having a conversation with you, if I'm having a disagreement with you, did you hear me out? Did you let me finish my sentence? Did you let me say what I needed to say? Did you try to clearly explain to me what it is that you're trying to say? Or did you cut me down? Did I walk away from the conversation feeling less than? Did I walk away feeling degraded just because I gave my thought or my opinion? And a point that he made was that when I bring this issue to you, when I say, hey, I need you to stop yelling at me, I need you not to speak to me in that tone. I need you to really consider what it is that you say to me and how you say it. A person who cares is going to correct their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
A person who cares is going to stop. An abusive person, a controlling person, not only will they keep doing what they do, they'll blame you for it. Well, you didn't get the point because you just didn't hear what I said, and whatever, you need to be quiet and let me do whatever. They will degrade, they will keep going on and on. But a person who cares, if I really want to understand what you're saying, they're going to stop. They're going to correct their behavior, and they're going to listen and do what they can to get to a compromise if need be, or to hear you clearly and get to whatever decision and need be that the two of you come to. Um, and another thing, Karen, that you said that I absolutely agree with is that sometimes you need a mediator. If you need a mediator, if you need to be in counseling, if you need to pull in a healthy individual who can sit and listen to you both, and a mediator is somebody who they don't have anything to gain from either one of you. They're not rooting for you, they're not rooting for him or her. They just want the truth. They want the best of the best to come out. So a mediator is not in favor of one or the other. A mediator is in favor of the truth. The truth, and let's do this in a healthy way. And it is okay if you find yourself needing or sitting in front of a mediator or a counselor. Because again, as Kendrick said, if you don't, other problems can develop because you had that first miscommunication that maybe um, led into an argument that was unhealthy or an argument that was just unclear. So it's okay to do what you need to do. Bring somebody else in who understands the topic, who understands you, who understands your partner, understands the situation. It's really okay if you need to do that. That doesn't say that you're a failure because you need a third party. It also does not say that your relationship is abusive because you need someone to come in and to help you guys through an issue. What it says is that you're mature enough to understand that we don't want to hurt each other. And we don't want this to turn into something, as Kim said, other problems can develop. We don't want this to blow up and be something that it's not. So I want to emphasize the point that arguments are okay. Arguments are good as long as they happen in a healthy manner, in a healthy way. And which is, how do you leave that conversation? And I'm not saying that, you'll be in front of a person and both of you will be speaking in little quiet, mousy voices. I don't want to paint that picture, but you shouldn't be physical either. You shouldn't be degrading each other. One of you or both of you shouldn't walk away feeling like he doesn't love me, she doesn't love me, I'm less than, and they feel like they can trample all over me and do whatever they want to do. And I think it takes a big person to say, you know what, let's stop. Like, we might not get to the bottom of this right now, but maybe in a couple hours, maybe let's table this or let's come back tomorrow. Or just take time. It takes a mature individual to be able to say, I care about you enough that I don't want this to explode. I don't want this to turn into something else. So let's just leave this alone. I'm not trying to be right. I think that's another thing about a healthy argument.
Yes.
The point is, I'm not trying to be right. I don't want to prove you wrong. Let's just get to the compromise. Let's just deal with the truth. Let's just get the information out on the table. I'm not trying to be right, because I think it can turn into a controlling situation. It can turn into an emotionally abusive situation when I just want to prove you wrong. I just want it. Don't sometimes we forget what we were arguing about in the first place, because it's like I just want to be right, and in my wanting to be right, you end up demeaning and dehumanizing the person in front of you. So, Mark, I would ask you to maybe expand on that part. A healthy argument is not wanting to prove the partner wrong. It's not you wanting to be on top.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's two ways you look at this. I mean, I started out talking about mutual respect, and I want to stay on that topic. But inherent in that thinking of a mutual respect, where two people disagree honestly, and it can become very, depending on you know your audience, right? I mean, people can be very emotionally charged people. They can be very passionate people. So arguments can really go over the top. Think of politics. Think of religion. Think of all the stuff we're not supposed to talk about, which is really all the fun stuff to talk about. So all of that's going to generate a lot of emotion. But the trick is if you respect the other person you're speaking to, or the other persons that you're speaking to, going back to what I said earlier, it's okay to have those differing opinions for whatever reasons, life experience, work, whatever it may be that's led you to where you are at this stage in your life. The point of discussion, it's much like the scientific method, though, isn't it? I mean, it's really kind of trial and error. We do things, we have a perspective, we have a point of view, we have an opinion. We come out, we do it, we see if it works in the real world. And in the scientific method, you have a theory, you test it. If it doesn't work, you take it and you throw it in the trash can and you try a new theory. And so, this is what we do with argumentation. Sharpens us. It should sharpen us. Now, that's with people who are, both parties are mature, and we're talking about, again, I'm going to hang my hat on that mutual respect conversation. That's where you can disagree vehemently, and at the end of the evening, still slap each other on the back and have a beer, and that's fine. That's all good. Now, you brought up a very good discussion point about people who have to win the argument for a variety of reasons: control, manipulation, abuse, and I would contend that's not a healthy relationship to begin with. If someone's trying to beat you down psychologically, they're not demonstrating that first prerequisite I just mentioned, the mutual respect concept. They're not engaging in that. So it's not an equal conversation to start with. They're simply trying to get you to conform to their point of view for whatever reason. And that's a whole different discussion. You're not going to have a conversation of equals on this kind of a thing, because that other person is always seeing you as inferior or subject to their control. So that's a whole different ball game. And again, we've spoken about this a lot of times, and it needs to be continued to be spoken about because it doesn't go away. There's a lot of unequal partnerships out there, and people who don't know how to end it, and don't know how to get away from it. And this is where they are. People who have come from environments that there was no conflict, that there was no manipulation, and then they find themselves in a very manipulative circumstance. They have no idea. They're out of their depth. They're out of their water. They don't know what to do. So it is, again, I think psychologically we go through a process where, if we're constantly being berated and our first instinct is to kind of sit back and say, what am I doing wrong? Because after all, you're putting value in this relationship that you're having the conversation that's leading to these arguments. And you're trying to figure out, is it me? I think is the first thing that's always going through your mind. And at some point, we got to get off that apple cart and say, if I'm being respectful, if I'm laying out clear opinions or clear information, and it's just being categorically rejected and in a degrading way, that's the key, right? If someone is obviously beating you down verbally and psychologically, you need to be able to take a step back and say, I don't care who this is, what relationship this is, be it a father, daughter, a mother, son, a husband, wife, husband. It doesn't matter. And kids too. I mean, let's not get away from that. Kids are beating their parents up these days, and parents are kowtowing because they're afraid of losing the relationship with children. And so you're ceding control to children, sometimes minors, not talking about, teenagers and young adults, even I'm talking about, kids taking over the household. And I've seen this happen, and it's really, it's befuddling in one context. And it's, I don't know, I guess sad in another. Psychological manipulation, no matter who is perpetrating it, is wrong.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for it. There's no support for it. And it never ends well. And I think that's the thing we've got to keep in mind. It doesn't end well. So why tolerate it for a year, 2 years, 10 years, when we know what the end result is going to be?
Yeah. So as you said, it doesn't end well. As you were talking, the thought that came to me was, you don't have to take it. When I see that this conversation is going left, I don't have to sit through this, or I don't have to subject myself to it again, to your presence. Mm-hmm. And Love Bay, everybody knows me. You know who I am. You know how I am. You get one chance to cross me. You get one chance. Everybody has that moment of grace. But when you show me who you are, when we are supposed to be two adults coming together, having a conversation, discussing whatever, when you show me that you will disrespect me, when you show me that I can't sit with you, I can't talk with you, I will end that situation however it needs to be ended, but I will definitely not open myself up to it again. There are some people who I would never have a conversation again with behind closed doors alone. There are some people I would never have a conversation with again at all for any reason. And I know that there are some times where you're in a situation where you have to deal with a particular person. If you are at work, you may have to deal with your boss or a coworker. But if they have demonstrated to you that they are abusive verbally, mentally, or emotionally, or in any other manner, then you take the steps necessary to safeguard yourself. So it may be a point where you need to bring in another employee, a higher employee, another coworker, or human resources. Do what you need to do. But as you were speaking, the thought that came to me was, you don't have to take it, even if you have to stop a conversation or argument in the midst of it happening. Stop, turn, and walk away. And I think a great thing to do is to set some ground rules before you even start. Like, look, we not getting ready to yell at each other. Don't say nothing about my mother. Don't say nothing about what happened 2 months ago. It's okay to lay some ground rules. Like this is what we're going to do. We're going to stay within this area right here. And if you break any of these boundaries, the conversation is over. And don't expect to think that I'm going to give you the opportunity to have that conversation or have that opportunity again to disrespect me or degrade me in that manner. So with that, Cameron, I would ask you your thought on one person wanting to be right, as opposed to actually just wanting to resolve the issue and get an answer, but just wanting to be right.
Most of the times into a relationship, it's caused by a friend, like the female friend sometimes about the male friend, and they won't because their relationship is going on a different way. They look at it and like, why yours is, they interrogate you and saying things like, but majority of the time, the same person will tell you their home is not going right, but they're telling you something, and you bring it to your home, about to something good. And then whatever her girlfriend said, she maybe we all come to agree and don't know that the two individual what's different individuals giving us information,
Hmm.
it's not even healthy because that just when she come with or what I come with, it's not good. So it create an animosity and it blowed up and she get upset, I get upset. And then I'm like, where is this coming from? And I'm like, but this is what we're looking for. But because that wasn't coming from me, and that's what she coming with me is not coming from her, it's coming from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, now it can create confliction. And the conviction now is like she looking at me like she might be saying, "Oh, my girlfriend doing this," and I'm like, "Oh, I see where this coming from." I'm like, but you can't follow her because you're not her. And I already know who said whatever to me, but I can't really put it on the table because it's gonna look like a tick for tack because he said so. I have to look at her and say, listen, we need to do things on our own to see what works best for us because we can't look at each other and taking other people's opinion. They might be don't have the experience that we have. They might be never married before, or they never have certain things what I have. So we have to go out and look at things and try it on our own. Sometimes, hey, everything don't work out the way it's supposed to be, but at least both of us is on the same page doing it. You understand? If we fall, both of us fall. It's not me fall and then she, yeah, both of us because both of us going towards the same goal. You understand me? And we talk about it while we doing it. So while we doing it, doing it and moving forward, then we gonna be on the same page, and then we start looking at life different. But once we start putting people into a space and we start adding things, it's never going to be right because in life we look at things different, and sometimes we have to go through certain things to understand certain things. So we grown and we have a lot of experience, but we want to do our thing, try this on our own. Let me see what can we complement on our own and achieve on our own. So I would try that and push everything aside and move forward.
Right. So that makes perfect sense. And what I clearly heard was keep other people out of your
Yep.
other people out of your arguments, your conversations, your business. Now I want to be very, very clear. We are not talking about trying to cover up abuse because abuse thrives in secrecy.
Right.
So if you have an honest and sincere friend, family member, individual coming to you, saying, I think, these are some issues that I see. I want to help you, or do you think that you are being harmed or hurt in this way? If someone is sincerely coming to you because they care about you and they see some things that are just wrong, that's one thing. That's okay because you don't want to cover up abuse. But when you have other people just in your friendship, in your marriage, in your relationship, in raising your children, somebody just throwing in their ideas, just do it. Creating a problem where one doesn't exist, nothing about that is healthy at all. So as we have arguments, as we have disagreements, let it be because we actually are dealing with our own issues and not something somebody else brought to us. That's just totally and completely unnecessary. And Mark, I wanted to uh, go back to your point of mutual respect. And I think this is a point where we can like actually just use ourselves as a real life example because we're friends, we're cool, and we have had some arguments, but there's a mutual respect. I say what I need to say. He's has said what he needs to say. Like there have been times like the first thing I said was when I would see him or be on the phone, like, we need to talk. And it's like you can just see. You're like, oh man.
But she always wins them in the end, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
But because there is mutual respect. Now there have been times that I got all right, we need to talk about something too. But there's a mutual respect. It's like if something is bothering me, if something has bothered him, or if there's an issue, like in a real friendship, there is mutual respect, and we can talk about it. There are several times we've had disagreements, but at the end of it, it was like, all right, it's done, it's over. Like we're not bringing this back up. I'm not throwing it in your face. There are some things that happen. I think it requires like more than one conversation.
Yeah.
Like there are some things where, maybe we do have to put this on the table 2 or 3 times, but it's because we're actually working through this.
Through it.
Right. We're trying to get to the compromise, or we're trying to get it resolved, or giving each other the room to express your own thoughts or feelings. Like we're not jabbing at each other. We're not poking at each other just to see you get riled up, or just to hurt you or whatever. But no, just, Mark, as you said, mutual respect.
Yeah, and in adult conversations, this is constant. This is always going to happen. You disagree with your boss. You could disagree with your spouse. You could disagree with. I mean, disagreement is a simple fact of life. It just, you listen, honestly, we disagree with ourselves if we're alone in a room thinking about our thoughts too long. So, what do we, so again, it's knowing your audience. If you're sitting across the table from someone and you're saying something that's degrading, why are you saying that? What's the point you're trying to make? What's the validity to that? So why do you even go there? But you could sit across the table from someone else and it wouldn't be an issue. So you can just be flippant and I'm a very sarcastic person. And there are times, yes, I know you're laughing because you know that too well, but I've got to watch it. I really do. Because there's times I could say something that is not, it's taken not the way I intended. And then I have to backpedal and I'm trying to say, listen, that's not where I was really going, but that is what I said. So we have to think before we speak. We have to choose our words carefully, and it is knowing the audience. And again, if you're in a mature relationship, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you know what? That was a stupid thing I just did, and the stupid thing I just said, I didn't think, and I am sorry. And boom, that's the end of it. It moves on. Again, I think we're kind of conflating the two kinds of argumentations here. In mature relationships, there's nothing to really, get a handle on. They happen and they get put behind us and the friendship goes on. But when it's used as a means of manipulation, that's a whole nother dinosaur that we've got to deal with, and we've got to stand up. And I love when you said go through to understand, and that's a theme that we've picked up on here in a few occasions. And I do argue if there's a white light at the end of the tunnel, as they say, it's not just a train coming, but sometimes there actually is something that actually makes sense. And I do think that sometimes if you're able to come out on the other side of something horrible or horrific, you actually can take that experience to someone who is going through it now. And you can say, look, I understand, not just intellectually, but I understand that emotionally. And I've gotten through it. And here's how I was able to do it. And you can actually become an example and a positive role model, if you will. And I'm not saying to hoist yourself up on the petard of being a role model, but you kind of become it. You show that it is surmountable, that you don't have to be defeated. That no matter how dire your circumstances look, no matter how bad it looks, that you can overcome it. And so that's what I do believe that's why Some of us are allowed to go through really terrible things so that we can be of benefit to others later.
Mm-hmm. So,
do you ever disagree when you go to the doctor and you felt some type of way when the doctor says something and you already know you're not agreeing with that what they're saying, but you want to get another opinion, so you say, let me go somewhere else and get myself checked out, let me go to another specialist because I don't want it to do something what I'm not comfortable with and I'm not sure if the doctor is right. So that's where disagreement comes in a lot of different ways, because you don't have to be nothing specific or nothing particular will we be disagree on.
So, sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on you, Tia. No, I love your question because you're absolutely right. I think we have a tendency in this society to yield our thinking to people whom we deem professionals. And doctors are a great example. I'll give you a real life example that happened to me just a couple months ago. My dog was sick. She's getting old, and she's about 11, 12. She's a rescue, so we really don't know how old she is. But she's getting old, and we noticed that she started walking with her head tilted, and she was like hitting the wall as she's walking, so her coordination was completely off and everything. We took her up to the vet. I'm thinking and I know from experience, when this happens in human beings, a lot of times it's in an ear infection. It's the inner ear has been impacted, and people start losing their balance, and they start banging into the walls as they're walking. It's almost like you're drunk, right? Mm-hmm. So I took her to the vet, and I'm with my wife, and the doctor says, "Oh, this is a neurological disorder, and you better get ready we're gonna have to put her down, but we can take her, we can send her for MRIs, and we can do." And they're going through this whole litany. Well, how much is that going to cost? About $5,000. I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, right. Like I got $5,000 for this, right? Yeah. So, like I love my dog, but
Yeah, absolutely right. It's true. It happened to me too.
Mm-hmm. And my wife is literally, she's tearing up sitting there, and I'm like, well, and I said to the vet, I said, can you, like look at her ears? I mean, like, I think it might be an ear infection. And she literally walks over, flips the ear up and goes, nope, not an ear infection. And like, I've been to the doctor enough times, right? Don't you get that little cone that lights up and you just stick it in the ear? Like, I'm paying you $100 to look at my dog here. Humor me.
Right. Use your instruments.
We walked out of there. My wife was like, she was so upset. And I just said, we're going to another vet. I said, this is garbage. Nice place, nice people, very friendly, but you're not giving me a logical answer. And you didn't really listen to what I said. Mm-hmm. If you really paid attention, looked in the ear, did what I expected, and then said, no, that's not it, I would have accepted that. And we took her up to the next day. We actually got into another vet about 5 miles away, and looks at her for a couple of minutes, goes, I wonder if that's an ear infection. And my wife just started laughing. And sure enough, it was an ear infection. So,
right.
So you're absolutely right. And I love your point and everyone listen to this. Don't just think because we cede authority, we can't give away our authority, our ability to think, because someone is a professional. And this can happen in counseling, right? Where, you get into counseling and the counselor says, oh, well, you need to just go ahead and do what, your husband says, and no, I don't need to get slapped across the face. No, I don't need to get pushed down a staircase. No. So what I do need is another counselor.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to ask you, because what the vet told you, we already know the human have this soft thing inside of them when it comes to the animal or the children or what. So now you looking at it like, I don't want to pay that. And she looking like, well, we need a dog. So now you and her going through that disagreement because of what the doctor said. So now you like, listen, let's just go. And she like, but we here. But in your opinion, like, we can go somewhere else and then we can take another step after that.
Well, yeah, it's not even a he, she thing. I mean, it was really, we both love our dog and we both want the dog. Now, yeah, I think from, putting on my male hat, I think we're going to look at the bank account more than the wife does and say, we need to keep Fluffy alive. So let's spend $25,000 and mortgage our house. No, well, Fluffy's great, but I'm sorry, people out there. I'm not trying to. But no, I mean, I do think men tend to think more in those terms than women do. But I mean, look, the first vet played a very poor game of poker. I mean, again, like I said, if she came over and did all the things that I, as a patron, as a person paying her, you're providing a service. She completely disregarded what I was saying. And I may have been saying something stupid. I'm not a vet. I don't know. So I'm thinking ear infection. They're mammals. We're mammals. They get sick like we do. So in my mind, I wasn't making a stretch. It was a legitimate question that needed a legitimate answer. I didn't get it. So if I didn't get it, then I need to go somewhere else. And that's the bottom line lesson in this for everyone listening is if and instinctively, if we listen to that inner voice in ourselves, we know right and wrong. Oftentimes we can get confused because we're putting our trust in someone that we shouldn't be, or we're misguided. We think, this person loves me, so they're thinking of my best interest. No, not always. And maybe they don't even love you and you just think they do. Hard stuff to look in the eye.
Right.
I get it. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. I'm not trying to, make believe it as real. This is real life. Sometimes you've been duped and you've got to look at that. And there's an old saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And I love that saying because it is, and it's what you were saying earlier. I'll give everybody one chance. I will let it go once myself. I might even let it go twice. But I believe me, the first time you've done it, it's in my brain. The second time you've done it, it's now, I'm looking at you and I'm saying, okay, this is a habit. I'm seeing a pattern here. And you will never get that third time.
Yes.
And we have to be strong enough within ourselves. And we have to be confident enough in ourselves. And when you're being berated and you're being manipulated, that confidence isn't there.
It's not. And I think, Mark, what you're saying is really leading to an important point is that you need to know the difference between a healthy argument and what is actually abuse.
Absolutely.
You need to know the difference. So again, how is this conversation making you feel? How did this person make you feel? Now, did we sit down and we just really talk and we got through this? Even if we had to decide, look, let's just put this on the table and come back to it. Is your dignity still intact? Or is your self-worth still intact? Mm-hmm. So you have to recognize the differences. Someone standing in your face and calling you names and yelling at you. And please let me say, I don't care what kind of title you have in front of your name. You can, and there are too many instances of clergy abusing individuals, abusing members of their congregation, abusing other ministers because you have a title in front of your name. You think you can say whatever you want to say. Just as in professions, some counselors believe I can do what I want. I can say what I want. I'm right. Doctors, lawyers. So that comes in again to the point of a second opinion. And if the two of you are together having a conversation, if you can't agree, it is okay to feel like, let's get a second opinion, because in some cases, that's where the mediator can come in.
And if you're really, to be really Machiavellian about this, if you are really a master manipulator and you are really a person who really is so narcissistic and self-centered that you want to just manipulate people and whatever, for whatever reasons, because you want them to keep coming back to your therapy sessions, whatever it may be. And I'm not trying to pick on any profession, but if I am one of those type of people, the place I'm going to put myself as a profession is a place that's endearing trust.
Yes.
And again, not picking on the church, but look at all the child abuse cases that happened, right? Well, who were these guys? That's not saying anything about the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of nuns and priests who dedicate their lives to and sacrifice for the people around them and for their congregations. But, it takes one bad apple. And who's the media covering? It's covering the one guy that was abused that got transferred to 4 different churches. Unacceptable. But what was his motivation for becoming a priest? I don't think it was to serve God. It's because he got to have access to children, and children's access is what he wanted.
And so there are cases where you need to recognize, as you said, who is standing in front of you.
Absolutely.
You need to be honest. You need to be able to say, he doesn't mean me any good. She doesn't mean me any good. I don't care how long you think you could call this person a friend, how long you've known him, how long you've known her. So what? Whatever they've done for you in the past, that does not give them the right to berate you. It doesn't give them the right to treat you so good Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday come, you're the dirt at the bottom of their heels. And then the next week they just treat you really, really good again. It doesn't work like that. So you do have to be honest. You have to see what you're looking at in the mirror. Does this person have my best interest at heart? Does this person have the best interest of this relationship at heart? Our working relationship. Do you really want this deal to go through? Do you really want us to be able to serve these clients? Or are you more concerned about the agenda that you want to put forth? And you got to be honest with it. Before you start signing contracts, or if you already have signed contracts, you need to review some paperwork. You need to go back. You need to be honest. And you need to look at who you're dealing with and how they are dealing with you and how you are dealing with them, because abuse can go both ways. Unfairness can go both ways. So if you don't want someone raising their voice at you, you shouldn't be raising your voice. If you don't want him saying anything about your mother, don't throw his mom under the bus either. Like don't do that. Now, having said this, I wanna make this point. You can be absolutely wrong in an argument, and when I say wrong, I don't mean the person is being abusive. But you can honestly be wrong. You can honestly have the wrong idea. You can honestly misunderstand. If I misunderstand the situation, if I misunderstand what you have said or done, that doesn't give you the right to shut me down. That doesn't give you the right to be abusive to me, to just be derogatory to me. It doesn't. There have been several times that Kenrick and I have thought that we were saying the same thing, and we weren't. Completely different things. And then there were times when we were saying the same thing, but we were saying it different ways. But for us in our friendship, it's like we had to learn each other, and we're still learning each other as we go along. I mean, I always say this is my partner in crime. Look, man, sometimes that accent just gets really thick. It's like
the real you comes out, huh?
The real, and it's like, I think I heard something that I didn't, or he may use an expression that I think means something else. I may use an expression that he thinks means something else. So my point is that there have been times, it might not have been a lot, but there have been times that I've had the wrong idea, and I had to be able to say, oh, I made a mistake. I thought you meant this, or I thought this, or I thought that, and he, to the best of his ability, will take the time and like, no, this is what I meant. This is, this is what it was, or I'll do the same. Like, this is what I meant. Or even if you meant X, Y, or Z, this is how it actually made me feel.
Yeah.
So again, my point being that there are times where you actually can make a mistake. You actually can have a wrong thought. And I think for me, sometimes that comes about when I'm making decisions based on my past experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like I heard some of this before, so it's like I'm pulling on that bank of memory that I have, and so there are times where a situation can be happening right in front of me right now, but I'm processing it through what I already know, what I've already experienced, and sometimes that's coming from a hurtful place.
Sure.
Now there, and you have to you have to be wise, because yes, you don't want to throw your experience away. Experience is a good teacher. But then we have to understand and be careful of when our experience has taken us to a place where we shouldn't be. So I know that was a lot.
No, it makes total sense. And I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of a comedian I heard. It was a couple of decades ago. It was really funny. I don't even remember who the comedian was, but he was doing a skit, and I'm not going to try to repeat the joke because I don't remember it all, but I remember the gist of it. And the gist was he was in a fight with his current girlfriend, who had been the previous boyfriend had broken up with her, was really mean to her and said terrible things to her, and the parents didn't like him because of the ex-boyfriend and da 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 da. And his point was, what was his punchline was like, guys, if you're gonna hate me for the stupid things I'm doing, not for what the guy before me did. I started laughing because I'm thinking, that makes total sense. Be smart. It's good to be wise. You don't let go of your past. Forgive but never forget, right? You pay attention to what's happened, because history does repeat itself, and unfortunately, we're attracted to similar personality types. So if you fell for it once, if you're not careful, you'll fall for it again. So you do want to have your guard up, but at the same time, you don't want to have your guard up to the point where you preclude the possibility of a good life, because now you're so defensive and you're so suspicious of it. Guess what? Your ex has just won, because he's changed you. He's changed who you were from a loving, trusting person to a suspicious person who's going to throw relationships away. So you do have to have, where's that balance? I don't have one. That's one degree I don't have. I don't have a counseling degree. So I can't sit here and tell you, but I've been around long enough to know that is very real.
Yeah.
And you've got to be very much aware of it and very much on top of that. And, like I said, it becomes obvious very soon what doing. If you're looking at them with an objective eye, and and you're willing to say, okay, I'll give you that one, but I'm not going to give you that, and that, but I'll give you this, and this. It kind of works out fairly quickly. Over a course of months or whatever, you find out who these people are. The closer you get in a relationship, the more you see them for who they are, right? Because first dates are like first job interviews. Everyone's got their best foot forward. Right. So you don't know who this person is. You know who's on the resume. You don't know who you're on a first date with, because they're smiling and they're, oh, no, I'll buy that, but 6 months into the relationship, this could be a completely different person, and that's when you need to say, okay, is this the person I really want to spend time with? And I'm not just talking about dating. I'm talking about relationships, friendships.
Yeah.
Because friends can do a lot of damage.
Absolutely. So thank you, Mark, for that. I thank you both for your time, and especially since I threw a curveball at you both. I really appreciate it. And we're just under the hour. And I want to say this last thing, and then I will ask you both. I'll ask you, Kenrick, first, and then Mark, for your thoughts on the evening, what you would leave our listeners and viewers with. But the last thing that I want to say about arguments, about healthy arguments, is to pay attention on how you feel. Pay attention to how this person intentionally or unintentionally made you feel at the end of this. Now, there have been times like we have had some disagreements, we have had some arguments, and it was draining. By the time we got finished, it was like, all right, I'm just done. But it was because we put the effort in to have that conversation. Like, let's work through this. Mm-hmm. But then I can say that there were some disagreements or arguments that we had, and it was like at the end of it, like I felt good. It was like wow, we really dealt with it. Like we handled it, and we're just able to move on. So I don't want anybody to think, I do not want to leave the idea that having a good argument, having a healthy argument is going to leave you like floating on cloud nine. No, sometimes you'd be like, I need to just go lay down. I need some time. But it's like, all right, You put the effort into a relationship, into a friendship, into a partnership, into a child, into a sibling. You put the effort into it that that relationship is worth to you. So sometimes it will be draining, but it can still be healthy. Sometimes you be feeling good. Like I said what I need to say, I got it out. I heard what he needed to say, I heard what she needed to say, and we came to a resolution, and you can feel good about that. But no matter what, even if we can't decide what we need to do, even if we still don't know whether we're going left or right, we got to come back to this again. You should not feel like less of a person. You should not feel like your voice was not heard. You should not feel like you are unimportant. Nothing is healthy about that at all. So that was the last thing that I wanted to say. And so again, I would ask you guys to share your final thoughts on what a healthy argument looks like. Cameron, you want to go first?
Yeah, the answer argument like that, to make sure with everything done and set, we know we maybe don't have an agreement, but look at ourselves, say, look, let's move on. Let's talk this over another time. Let's do what we have to do because we can't just leave off of this, which you get upset and I'll get upset. That's not healthy for me. That's not healthy for you. So we have to put some things aside and move on. Laugh again, smile again, and continue life. Because life is so short, and you can't make one little thing put we down. So we have to look forward and keep moving.
Oh, that was awesome. I like that laugh again, smile again thing. Like that'll be a topic that we do. Laugh again, smile. I like that. Mark, would you give us your final thoughts on the evening?
Well, I don't know if I can top that, but I mean, I'm going to just basically say that a disagreement, and I'm reluctant to use the term argument because it almost means it's getting ugly, but disagreements, should be accepted as a normal course of life, and should be viewed in a way that, as long as they're mutually respectful, that they sharpen us. Right. They make us think of other points of view. They get us outside of our own heads. And they can give us new information, new ways of looking at things, change our perspectives. And that could be from a gender perspective. It could be from a cultural perspective. It can be all kinds of different ways. And that there's nothing but good that can come from that. So, but the key to that whole thing of differing opinions and different ways of looking at the world is that, as long as we are understanding what the drive is in there, and the drive is that it's for the betterment of all concerned. If that's what's driving the conversation, then it's okay. And again, not trying to control people, not trying to degrade them. That stuff's completely unacceptable, and it takes it into that second realm I was talking about. That's manipulation. That doesn't have any business in there. So we're up against the clock. So
well, thank you both again so much. I really I appreciate this conversation on tonight. I appreciate your your thoughts, especially since I just put you on the spot. But thank you so much. I think important information, real information was shared, and I do love and pray that someone's heart and mind was touched and encouraged on tonight. If you want to catch up on previous episodes from our program, you can visit our YouTube channel, Suffering in Silence DV. Thank you so much for joining Suffering in Silence with Pastor Tia here on Love Bay African Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay, we are rising out of the ashes together. And I really want to do that laugh again, smile again thing. We're going to have to do that at some point. Love Bay, good evening.